Hey everybody, just want to welcome you to week 3, module 3 for ME14 Mechanics of Solids course. So within this module here, what we're going to do is we're going to continue on with chapter 2, continue our discussion looking at the stress and strain, some shearing strain, plastic deformations under axial loading, so still under our axial loading here, and take a look at some plastic deformations. Now just some bookkeeping items here. Quiz 3 has been posted to Blackboard, and this will be due on Friday the 19th by 4 p.m. And just a reminder that my office hours are scheduled for Wednesdays from 9:30 till 10:30 in the morning. But if these times don't work for you, please reach out, let me know, send me a message or a chat on Teams. We'll find a time that works for both of us. So as we jump into module 3 here, we're continuing again in chapter 2, looking at the stress and strain under axial loading here. But what I did was a little bit differently than I normally do. Normally I would have taken module 2, taught half of the lecture in theory for the first half of chapter 2, and then did example problems for the second portion of it. And then in module 3, looked at the second half of chapter 2 and done example problems related to that as well. What I decided to do here after looking through a lot of the problems was to teach everything as far as the theory and key equation goes in module 2. And then in module 3, what we're going to do is apply all of those governing equations to some example problems and go through my hand solutions. Now, the reason that I decided to do this was because looking at the example problems, a lot of them involved stuff from the entire chapter. And it wasn't just a couple sections here and there. It involved key equations, and they all related back and forth together. So I decided to break it up this way, where module 2 is just more the theory and governing equations behind it, and module 3 is going to be a lot more of these example problems. And this will be great as you're working through your homeworks as well, to really help you understand how I expect you to solve these hand solutions to the problems. Another great benefit of this, considering this is an online course, you can always click back to module 2, look through those theory, look through that key equations again, and apply those to these example problems as you're going through those and working through these in module 3. So looking at module 3 as a whole, again, we're still dealing with chapter 2 relating back to our textbook with stress and strain and axial loading. So we're going to consider deformations occurring in structural components subjected to these axial loads. So within this module and within this entire chapter here, what we're going to do is do example problems related back to these topics in our textbook here, where we're going to be looking at some shear strain, to discuss the relationship between stress and strain for these different types of materials and how do we do those calculations, how do we apply that to example problems, look at some deformations of structural components under axial loading and problems related to that. Take a look at a couple of these indeterminate problems as well, use a couple of the different principles that we discussed within this chapter 2 and apply these to problems, talk about stress concentrations and how they're going to be included within design, how we can see problems related to those there, and look at, again, between the difference between elastic and plastic behavior. So this is all material that we covered within Module 2 as well, and we're looking at example problems that involve a lot of this information from Module 2 all throughout Chapter 2. So reading guide for this section, please continue reading all of chapter 2, continuing on with sections 7 through 13 now in your textbook. So we'll be breaking this down into a couple different sections. First, module 3.1, still again chapter 2, looking at some shear strains, deformations under axial loading, and some stress strain. What we'll be doing within this here is looking at some applications of this now, going through these different problems and solving them out by hand, and applying the key equations from the chapter in the previous module. And in 3.2, we'll be doing the same thing there, looking at a couple different types of problems within 3.2 there, but still continuing on, going through example problems with our hand solutions and applying those governing equations that we've seen in Module 2 and back in our textbook.